Hello again, I am Fluff, back in War Thunder, where I've unlocked the P-38G. So I thought I would take it up for its first flight, which I recorded. The P-38G is a rank 10 US fighter plane with a very recognisable design. This is by virtue of the fact that it's a twin boom design. That means you've got the pilot in his little cockpit pod thing, and then on either side you have a fuselage boom with a propeller and engine. You've got a much bigger wingspan than you'd get with a single engine fighter, and a much bigger tailplane as well. Now historically this thing was mostly a long range escort fighter. It also did ground attack because it was really good for strafing, all the armament concentrated in the nose, and there were a couple of American aces who did very well with this thing indeed. Now there were other variants of the P-38 that we might see, but we've got the G, and in terms of armament, you don't get any ordnance, no rockets or bombs as options. You simply have the 4 50 cal machine guns in the nose, along with a 20mm cannon. Now you might feel inclined to turn your nose up at this plane in the light of that armament. I mean, you can get easily 6 50 cals in, say, a Corsair, even 4 20mm cannons in the later model Corsair. You can pick up a series of 50 cals and a 37mm cannon with a P-39 or a P-63, but there's a couple of mitigating factors that should be taken into account before you just write it off completely on the basis of a bit lackluster armament. For one thing, all that armament is concentrated in the nose. You've got 4 50 cals and a 20mm cannon all shooting out of a central location. You're not going to have to worry about horizontal convergence, and what you aim at is going to be taking a huge amount of damage compared to the more diffuse damage that, say, 6 wing-mounted 50 cals are going to do. For another thing, the plane itself is a very, very stable gun platform, but I'll get back to that point in a minute. So, I queued my P-38 up for a FRB match. It's Battle of the Bulge and Bastogne at the moment, I believe. And I already had an apprehension of how I was going to need to play this thing. It's completely stock, and more to the point, it's a big 2-engine plane. It might be a fighter, but it's still bigger and heavier than, say, the Spitfires or the 109s. Basically, unless your opponent is absolutely monumentally stupid, you are not going to be wanting to try to turn and burn with this. Moreover, I was also very much aware that there were other fighters in my team that were perfectly suited for the job of taking on other fighters, so I wasn't going to stress out about that too much unless the opportunity presented itself. So I was quite content to loiter, just go after the lightly armoured ground targets, take a few pot shots at any planes I saw that weren't focusing me down, and just generally play it quite safe. Now, on top of everything else, in my experience, it does take quite a few sessions for you to get a feel for a plane to the point where you can comfortably come in and know what you're going to be able to do and what you can't do. So, what is there to note about the plane in War Thunder then? Well, it's a tricycle landing gear plane, so your takeoffs and landings are going to be quite easy in that respect, and it's also got counter-rotating props, so you're not going to need to worry too much on takeoff about horrendous pull to the left or right or any of that nonsense. In that respect, it is a very pleasant choice of warbird. As far as visibility is concerned, that's where the design sort of helps and hinders you a bit. In terms of visibility facing front, you're going to be facing a problem that guys in the 109s and Spits don't have, which is that you have an engine on either side of your cockpit. So while they enjoy a relatively unobstructed view from, say, about 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, an area which incidentally is very useful when you're tracking a target with the aim of intercepting them, you don't get that with the P-38. You have a sort of narrow window between about 11 to 12 and then 12 to 1 where you can sort of see down a little bit. You go out any further and, oh, look, the engine's in the way. It's not such a big deal when it comes to trying to spot targets coming towards you at level altitude or higher, but you're definitely going to have trouble spotting anything coming at you from below at those angles. So really, that's just something you're going to have to bear in mind. I think other than that, the visibility in this thing is really quite nice. You're going to be able to spot stuff on your level and above without any trouble at all, and looking out the back you've got great fields of view, which is going to be fantastic for manoeuvring if you need to do it. As far as its performance goes, again, it's a very stable plane, so you're probably going to find that jerkiness in the controls isn't such a big deal when you're trying to shoot someone down. And when it comes to the sort of manoeuvres you can do, well boy can this thing dive. You can hit 700 kilometers an hour without breaking a sweat. You do want to make sure you don't overestimate the rate of roll of this thing. It does not roll very quickly at all, and if you're too optimistic in that respect, you may find yourself barrel rolling into the ground at low altitude. Other than that, if you're familiar with the planes in the game and how they tend to handle when they've got proper flight models, then you'll probably know what to expect with this one. You're definitely not going to win prizes when it comes to turn fighting, but you've definitely got the speed and power you're going to need for boom and zoom and energy fighting stuff. In summary then, the P-38G in its current incarnation in War Thunder is a fantastic fighter plane when it comes to strafing up ground targets, because it's nice and stable and you've got all of that weaponry in a central location firing out the nose. Factor in the two powerful engines and you've then got the speed you need for bouncing unsuspecting targets, but you probably won't want to be getting your hands dirty, getting stuck into a furball and really trying to dogfight with it. Chances are you're going to lose out in that sort of situation, I think. With adequate support though, it's got the potential to wreck house. I've yet to find out just how much of a beating it can take though. Personally I really like it. It's a rank 10, so I think I'll be able to run it, probably not as often as I'd like, but certainly enough to get some real experience with it, and I fully intend to take that opportunity. That will be all from me for now however, so thank you for watching. Please like if you enjoyed the video, share it, etc. And of course, take care.